Tonight we ask, do you immerse yourself in a collaborative storytelling adventure through the flickering pixels of a screen, as opposed to the tangible presence of our friends around a physical table? Dungeon Masters players and curious listeners, grab your ale and pull up a chair to a table in a tavern. Hello everybody, this is GM Keegan, and as always, my co-host, DM Knock. And there's nobody across the table this time. We're doing a special episode. Well, it's just host on host, and we're going to talk about offline games versus online games. Not in a contentious way, but because the hobby has grown so much that we got old hats that have been doing it for 40 years, but they've been doing it 40 years offline. There's a wave of millions of people that have come on the last 10 years. Not just the internet swell and everybody goes online, but a lot of people, this is their only avenue to play online. And because of that, we have communities that their own experiences differ greatly. And we're going to talk about 3 key ones, a little personal, and see how we handle it and how the offline versus online community, so to speak, handles that. Knock is going to represent the offline community, is what I call it. As far as I know, Knock, that's the only thing you've played, correct?
Yeah, I have been playing since 25 years-ish, and I've only played at a table with dice, with people in front of me, papers. I believe since I've actually gotten into the hobby, maybe twice, I've looked at getting on Roll20 or whatever those VTTs are.
Doesn't even know what they are.
And I don't, and there's so many of them now. But I have looked at them, I have considered them, and then I just about faced and just went right back to my table.
Makes perfect sense. So to kind of break it down, Knock plays with his friends at the table, and they see each other face to face. No camera, no mic, no nothing in between them. Correct me if I'm wrong. Some people play at game stores with, I don't want to say strangers, but initially they're strangers. But for you've only played with acquaintances or people you knew before the game, correct?
Yeah, I mean, we will get people that are brand new to the group that,
I see, yeah, okay.
Friend A is like, hey, I got a buddy that wants to play.
Yeah, okay.
Can you come over? Yeah,
Okay.
So that's about as strange as we get.
Okay, so we have like friends of friends, but it's definitely a friend circle, so to speak.
Yes, yeah.
Which I would say the online community generally are going to be strangers. I mean, you could become friends, and maybe
you're all a bunch of weirdos.
They're friends from other games, or so to speak. But if you're playing online, clearly it's because you just don't have the ability, by location, by time, or whatever, to have somebody to sit down in front of you. So the first thing is we're going to talk about at the table, what that looks like. So for you being offline, what's your map and token situation? Like, what does it look like generally for you? Are you crazy and have all these 3D models that you spent $10,000 on, or like what does it look like at your table?
Oh my!
A typical day at Knock's table.
Sure. So yeah, my table is a pretty standard dinner table, right?
Typical.
So I sit at the short end, right, the head of the table. Got my DM screen up, and my players surround the table. They usually will go on whatever Hero Forge or something like that, or they'll go to an LGS and buy a minifig to represent themselves. So I don't supply that. But I did happen to buy a crap ton of minis back when they were super, super popular. Maybe about 15 years ago, almost 20 years ago.
Oh, interesting.
So I have a plethora of those things just sitting around that I use, skeleton army. Let me grab all my undead. Do I got a bunch of gnolls and orcs that want to fight? Yep, I got those too. Do
you pair that up with a map?
Yeah. And then the map is mostly just a hand-drawn piece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I don't get too fancy with those. I have considered there was a site that actually can lift a TV up off your table. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to have any frames or heavy equipment or anything. And then that's it. You just put your minifigs on that and you can put up a digital map. I have considered things like that, but never actually did it. I have battle maps that I have printed and laminated, and I've got blank ones that I just, for quick little impromptu stuff. But Yeah, everything's just right there out in the open.
I would say that's probably the typical average experience. Now, granted, you can get these amazing 3D models. You can buy them. Some people make them. That TV thing is one of the coolest things. And if I'm ever in a situation to be offline again, I would probably want to be a psychopath, if I'm allowed to be one, because, you know, got to ask the missus, is to get a table with a TV in it. I think that's one of the coolest things.
With this one in it?
Yeah, like, I think that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Like,
yeah, that, I dropped like $6,000 into that. Or more.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Unless you're handy.
It's a psycho thing, right? But I love the idea behind it. But I would say that getting, I've seen products where you can get these, oh man, what would they call it? I just saw a video of this map book, but it was, the maps were large size. It wasn't little notebooks. They were large size, and it was a whole book. You flip to it and lay it flat. Yeah, and it was all these different environments, and you could flip through it, and each one was, I don't know, 2 feet by 3 feet or something crazy.
Whoa!
Maybe that's a little big, but I just remember being a giant oversized book that you can have a battle maps ready, and I was like, that's pretty cool. A lot of people do, you know, the ink, the wet dry eraser, and then buy a couple of miniatures. Some people use like pennies or coins or dice and stuff, and you just have, okay, this is it, let's roll. And I think that's a very average experience. On the flip side, those that maybe are introduced and come play on the virtual side usually are not going to the barebone ones. Now, there are barebone ones you can just have a drawing and a basic gridded map, like Owlbear. But if you're playing through Foundry or Roll20 or some of those big ones like that, then you're going to get some more bells and whistles that people are used to and accustomed to, that some may say are video game-esque, and I kind of understand that. But at the very least, you have this really beautiful map, and it's that fills up your whole monitor, and you move these flat 2D tokens around, and it changes the experience.
Are you still talking about putting the monitor in your table?
Oh, well, and then you put miniatures on top of it. That's what I think is cool.
Oh, yeah.
So it's the map, but then you put the miniatures on top. But on virtual online, generally people are coming through one of these interfaces of a virtual tabletop and have a nice, clean, pretty looking map that you can just get from Google, slap it on there, or buy. If you buy modules, everything's already uploaded for you. And I think that's just a very different experience. You can add tons more tokens. You can right click a token and have extra information. A lot of these adventures, pre-written adventures, already have that. And if you are, what do you call it, homebrewing it, you can still have access to an infinite amount at super cheap to free. While at home, I think for you it'd be super expensive to get a ton of miniatures.
Yeah, okay. So to get miniatures, it's bonkers. It's nuts. Books are the same. Like, I can buy them digitally. Yes, I have my laptop next to me. I have evolved slightly. I have hooked up a TV that's behind me to my laptop that I can put like not pass outs, but like if I want to, you know, play a tavern music or something, I can put it up there, and then sometimes I'll put like NPC pictures up there just so that they know who they're talking to or whatever. But that's about as far as I get as far as technology goes. Now, with that said, I have been leaning into trying to get my players comfortable with the idea of being filmed and wanting to do like a Twitch thing. So I actually,
which would be a totally different setup. Yeah,
it would be. Yeah, well, it's already set up. I feel bad about this. And, like I literally bought curtain racks and like tracks, so I have green screen all the way around my table now. It's a whole thing. Keegan, don't judge me. But what I'm getting at is I still play traditionally at the table with no digital maps, actual minifigs, and actual dice.
Okay, that was the next
character
part.
sheets, I've been gotten digital now, but yeah.
Yeah, that's the other part. Is we're kind of talking about at the table, the interaction, having music. Online, I do a ton more. At offline, since it's been a while, was back in the day. God, if I say CD, or people are gonna be like, "What? You didn't even use like
you're ancient."
what I forgot what the other things were called, but like the iPods. I forgot what those called.
MP3 player?
MP3 players. Yeah, I would use like DVDs and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I guess you could use the MP3 player, but you can have a little bit online. It's so much easier to get music, and playing through Discord, having a whole bunch of different bots. I pop on a bot every single time I play to make sure there's music playing the entire session. That's very mood oriented. I have a library of stuff. Offline, I'm like, here's ambient music for the whole game. It's never changing, and it'll run for hours. Go, right? It's very different.
Yep.
Lighting, I know some people, that's one thing I do kind of miss online versus offline, is if you're creating this deep, broody, tension, scary atmosphere, and you're playing online, you cannot control that the other person's house is full lights, curtains open, family walking around, and they're just like,
cat jumps up on the counter.
Yeah, there's a lot of tension going on. But offline, I imagine you have more tools. Like, what do you do for that to like help build it up, the atmosphere?
So I've gone out. I buy a lot of the RBG lightings. So I have 2 LED. I'm looking at them now. They're like, I don't know. They're like 3.5 feet tall or so, just bars, and they stand vertically, so I can put them in the corners of my game space.
Interesting.
And I can control them on my phone. And there's little settings on there, like literally lightning. I can put that in there, and it'll have this almost strobe effect.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah, and it's all at a button press. So yes, I do use technology. It's not like I'm playing 40 years ago when none of this was available, but I am using it to set my stage. So I'll dim the lights. I'll throw on some lighting effects and stuff like that as well. Yeah,
definitely. I would say that's not the norm, but I will say that you can achieve stuff that unfortunately I can't, and it's something that I have to like acknowledge and try to figure out how to work with, because I mean, you made a great moody setting.
Right. And to your point, like until you can get everyone on that same page, it's not going to feel right. It just won't. But your online tools are way more efficient. When I think of, I know we're talking about the stage setting and stuff like that, and I don't know if this is what you're transitioning, because you don't tell me what these topics are before we start getting into it. Anyway,
I'm going to throw another curveball in about 30 seconds. We're going.
Yeah, I know. But I can imagine, like, for me, everyone's still, again, throwing their dice, looking up their character stats. They might have a book. They might have it up on their phone for, like, quick references, something like that. But I know that in some of those VTTs, you can macro your abilities. It auto does the math. So combat situation goes a lot faster, right? It's more efficient for you.
The combat in game, I would say, is an advantage. I honestly do think it, especially for certain kinds of games that are very complex, or you roll a lot, D&D, other super crunchy games. I think digital tools really speed it up. I've noticed a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely.
Huge difference. Even on the GM side, I would say, not just for players doing their actions, but if I'm like crazy and I have 6-7 different things, early on, I think it was a Fandelver one. So this is a published module. There was an ogre, there was a couple goblins, different little things in different areas. And I was like, wow, this is a big one, or big encounter. However, all I had to do was click a button. That was a macro for everybody rolled initiative, put everybody in order, and you click a button and it cycles through them, so you always know who's coming up next.
Man, that's so good. Super,
super amazing. There's like all of these tips and tricks and things you can do to offline. You can hang people's little tags. You can do this and that, and I'm like, I understand why people have those tips and tricks, because online, I click button and all it is initiative. That's it. I literally just click. I highlight all of my tokens, hit initiative, and it goes boop, done.
Yeah, Well, even just that one simple tool, like
Oh.
I have an initiative tracker at my
yeah.
table, and I still mess it up. Right, every DM does.
Because you're physically
But
moving
for
stuff,
you,
right? Oh, love it.
yeah, exactly. And it's like, oh yeah, I forgot to move this guy, or I added somebody in as an ambush, and now where do I put them in? You know, you get in your brain like, hey, we're going this way. This is the pattern on the table, and then something changes, and you just mess it up. But for you, yeah, going online, it's there, it's ready for you. That's the efficiency and the convenience of that is so that I wish I had.
Yeah, I would say that if I go on offline, I will do initiative differently because I want something easier. So I will probably use one of those techniques I've heard of to speed it up or to organize it, because I'm like, wow, if I have 10 NPCs and I have 4 to 6 players, like that's a lot to juggle when I'm juggling everything else and still need to make it engaging and describe stuff, and man, that sounds so much more exhausting. And it's been so many years, maybe I just forgot the trauma of it. I don't know.
Right, and that's just the initiative order, like hit point tracking.
Oh, such another level.
Right, hit point tracking is another thing. Keeping track of their weapon or their attacks and their damages for each individual things, especially if you're looking at a more complex encounter. Like you brought up, what was it? Goblins and
a variety of goblins, different fighters or archers and an ogre, and so everybody had different weapons, different elements and weapons and speeds and all that. Oh, I can't imagine now offline.
Having all that at your fingertips and being able to manipulate it and just utilize it on the fly like that. Yep, that's good.
And I will say, I obviously immersion is personally one of the things that I'm always pushing for. So I have seen some mods or plugins, depending on which tabletop you use, a virtual tabletop. You can get extensive. Some things are automated where the player just hits a button and there'll be like a slash across the screen and an explosion and blood splat. And I see that's fun, but for me, the novelty wears off quicker or pretty quickly, to the point that I'm like, but we're not playing a video game, and it starts to feel that way. So I personally don't use any of that stuff. I think the description, the role-playing part, the stuff that we do normally as GMs, I think the description is good, because I want the player to talk about them running up to this giant ogre and grabbing their axe and swinging it across their legs, and then we play that part out and see the results. I think is much more engaging and immersive. But I know some are like, click, I'm within 5 feet, and it automatically does it hit? Does it hit? Oh, it does. It reduces the HP and it shows a blood splat. And I was like, wow, that feels like we're just playing a video game. For me, that like robs the magic of what RPGs are. So I don't use any of that stuff. I use the tokens. And just show it, and then through descriptions of like what's happening, because I want to keep that good storytelling, immersive moment, that visceral excitement of what you did, and you as a player tell me, and this is the results. I think that's much more exciting.
So do you think, every episode we talk, I always try to bring in like the psychology, right, of D&D. Like there's always something to bring into this, and I'm wondering, is this step outside your own field here, because both of us have DM'd for so long we might have forgotten how to play. I just want to play Keegan. But I often wonder, the players that you kind of alluded to this at the beginning of the episode, that some players don't have a table to go to, and so they want to play, they want to get into this hobby, and their only option is virtual, online. Do you think that those players, I don't want to say resent, but wish that they could play in a more traditional manner? Like, or do you think that they're just happy with that and they just want to go with it? Is there always that thing in the back of their mind, like, I wonder what this would be like at a table, and if it would be different? And
I would say nowadays, people have grown up long enough online that there's longtime friendships of people that have never, even if they've sent pictures or did video chat, have never been face to face. They play MMOs, they'll play just Call of Duty. You can play on consoles and not even be on a computer, and they can have long-term friendships And of course, we've heard of romances and everything. So I would say now, if you're under a certain age, and it's new, like we're talking about newly getting into RPGs,
yeah.
Not like you played 40 years and then you switch over, but like new. I don't think they think it as one better than the other. I think they just want the experience because out of which I want to talk in the next part is like, how do we choose these players, friends versus strangers? I've never heard any kind of resentment. It's always excitement. They're all like, I'm new, and they're just hyped to play. They love it. I've ran lots of games for new players, and they seem just as enthusiastic online versus offline, because I think this point, we, as at least in our society, don't see much of a difference anymore. I think it's or at least it feels that way, to the point that I personally have never noticed a single negative, like, yeah, I'm doing this as second place. This is the second tier. If I have to stuff. I think some of them also have a level of social anxiety towards when I talk to them about, oh yeah, in person, this and this happens. They almost are a little like, ooh, that sounds maybe scary that I have to sit next to a stranger that I don't know instead of the comfort of my house. And we can play this game together, and I can have this cool art and look at my token and stuff. So I've never seen the negative side of, or the scary resentment side of it.
That is true that you bring up anxiety. And this isn't, it's not exclusive, right? Like there's other, I don't want to say mental disorders, but there's other mental or there's conditions, I guess.
Yeah, there's like emotional hurdles that a lot of people go through, and this is like
Absolutely.
Being online. I think that's always been a great avenue ever since the online explosion 20 years ago.
Right, like everyone's got more courage, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, sometimes too much courage.
Well, right, but in a scenario like this, we're looking at the pinnacle of nerdiness, right? Like when you talk D&D, when you go to anybody, like everybody knows what D&D is, but not everyone understands what D&D is. So the people that are not in the hobby, they look at it as, wow, you are the biggest dork or nerd that I've ever heard of. And that's okay, because yeah, we get it. We know where it's at, you know? But for somebody to jump out and go into that space and hit that comfort level with complete strangers, yes, that is a pro towards online. Absolutely.
Yeah. If you're already as a hobby, it may not seem like it because we're so social, right? We're very social. We're meeting other strangers to talk to each other for hours every week. That doesn't sound like it. But I think there is like a level of comfort also nowadays that people that tend to enjoy this, even when I was offline. They're same kind of me. I may be very talkative and outgoing, but I would say most of the people I played with would be more reserved in lots of social situations. I would say that would be the norm even back, well, the whole 40 years, the whole 50 years, whatever, of the hobby. I've noticed that a lot. So I think people are kind of at ease being online a lot more.
Yeah, even for me, like I don't count myself as shelled up or antisocial or anything like that. I can get along with pretty much anybody. But even for me, stepping into a new space, it's I'm reserved at first. I think everybody should be. But once it's infectious, right? So once people start opening up, then that's when I open up. That's when the other people open up, and that's really when you can start having a good time. Which is why having like those icebreakers and stuff like that and
goes a long way.
It does. Yeah.
All of this it goes into the other part is, since online versus offline is. We talked earlier that you are your players, and I would say this is pretty typical once again, that if you're offline, it's generally friends or friends of friends, acquaintances, workmates, but people you know more than 2 minutes have joined your game. Now, granted, some people go to a game shop, put up a notice, try to form a group, but I don't think that's the majority. I think it happens, but I would say most people that don't come online all the time and are looking up all this stuff for builds and how to GM and stuff, generally it's because you have friends. We hang out, let's figure this out. In fact, I think it's talked about all the time to a detriment that it's assumed that, no, role-playing is just you and your friends having fun. And I'm like, well, I think that's the big difference, though, between online and offline.
That way. It's pitched that way, right?
Yes. And because of that, I think we need to talk about, okay, let's just take that there's two differences. How do you choose, though? Is every friend, every acquaintance, every workmate, every person you kind of associate with a good fit for your group? Or how do you personally choose? Because I think I have a very different way of doing it, being online, since 99% of the people are going to be strangers. So how do you personally choose for your group?
Yeah, so for me, all right, so let me start with traditionally or mainly for me. It has always been, it has always started with coworkers. I had a coworker that found out that I'm a metalhead and I like D&D, and they're like, "Holy crap, I want to try some D&D." And I said, "Okay, come over Saturday." I have firmly believed, and even to this day, I will die on this hill, D&D, as nerdy as it is, and as it used to be like this outcasted thing, but now it's become more mainstream.
Mainstream,
yeah. Even where it's at now, it is a spectator's game. You can sit back and watch a table. You can come to my house, watch us game, sit back with popcorn and a Coke, and you will laugh. You will cry. You will also start getting attachments to our characters. Like, it's going to happen. So a lot of the coworkers, if they're new, they want to come in, they don't know how to play, I'll invite them over and just say, "Hey, you can hang out for as long as you want. You can watch. You can come prepared with an extra character if you want to just jump in and try a scenario or something." I'm all about it. Now, with that said, that is primarily what I have done, right? It started as coworkers or friends, and then it just kind of went, okay, friends of friends and family, There was once, Keegan, you mentioned it, there was once that I made a call to arms in RP, put it in an LGS, and put my email address on it, and I let people come to me. I did that once. I will never do it again.
Oh, okay. So the stranger experiment was not very positive.
It was atrocious. So
interesting.
Now I did full RP with the I don't know. It was basically a wanted poster is essentially what it was. Like a call to arms poster. Anyway, you go into your grocery store and you're like, "Hey, lost cat, have you seen it?" And you pull the tab of the phone number, and that's how you go. So it was like that. And I got a lot of emails. First of all, I got a lot, so I had a good response off of it, right?
Nice.
The next problem I had was vetting, which is exactly what we're talking about right now.
Yes.
How do you vet this? Especially when you're talking, let's be honest, there's some very strange people that go to LGSs sometimes, and now you're welcoming them into your home. Or if you play in a neutral area, like at the LGS, you still don't want to make too much of a commotion. You want people to be comfortable playing, but you also want the people that are just at the store to be comfortable shopping or doing what they're going to do. So that's always awkward unless your LGS has, the backroom experience, then go for it. For my experience, I wanted 6 players. I had over 30 people apply. I gave them all a questionnaire. Most of them came back at me with just some ratty ass answers, like they didn't care, and of course I was the first to go. The next round I asked them to get on a Discord, or it was Discord at the time, and we just talked. I just wanted to get the vibe of them, right?
Yep.
Because as DMs, and we're picking and choosing these people, we have to kind of understand, okay, well, if this one's too shy but they have a great character concept, they have a little bit of experience, okay, yeah, come on in. But you get this next player that is overly aggressive and is a bro jock, you don't, I'm not feeling that. You might come across on, you got to protect your players. So it turned out that I ended up bringing in 7 players. I wanted 6. We played at my house one time. It turned into a political nightmare. I could not quash the rabble. And it just turned into hey, I stood up and I said, guys, I'm sorry. This isn't how it's supposed to go. This isn't D&D. We aren't playing correctly. I'm not having fun. And if I'm not having fun, I can't give that to you guys. I cannot give you a fun experience. So I apologize, but we're going to end it here. You guys can pet the dog on the way out. And that's how it was. I literally just had to pull the cord on it.
Interesting.
It was
Okay.
so bad.
So I would say it's interesting that when you first talked about when it was friends of friends of friends, you did a vetting, but the vetting was much more casual and informal of building some type of commonality. So
and it was adding one into the pond, not everybody.
Okay, yeah. So you're slowly building into it, which I think is fairly typical for the offline experience.
Yeah.
Maybe not the first time, but it'd be like, oh, my buddies in college, my friends, or when you're kids, we all just sat down and opened a book, or if you're older and you just did offline as your first time, it's like, who am I comfortable sitting around and playing a game with? Whether we're good at it or not, you're right. You want to. I would say that's usually the more casual friend experience. But what you nailed or spoke about, the randoms, I would say that carries over really well to the online space because I was nodding and laughing and chuckling.
You gotta do that every time?
I was nodding and chuckling to the point that I try to refine my my vetting process, my application process every single time. Every time I go, how can I refine it more each time?
And you're a professional DM, like you did that professionally.
Oh, I will say I had different standards. That was purely are you going to be a nuisance? Are you a bad person?
Oh, okay.
Are you a bad person? Because I don't care if you paid me. You're not going to be a bad person to me and other players. So can you talk? Are you an okay enough human? Okay. The rest, I kind of had to be a little bit more less not picky, but my standards had to be, hey, you're paying, I just need to give you a good experience, right? Okay. But it was more like, are you just an okay human? Because we're going to talk. You're not going to ruin other people's lives and ruin their night. But I would say all the other games, the majority of my other games, much more stringent of, I have a very particular feel that I'm going for at the table. Are you going to add to that or take from it? And I've had a lot of players that I'm like, damn, that's a good person. They just aren't a good fit for what I'm doing.
Oh, no.
And I genuinely feel bad of like, hey, this is not going to work out. Sorry. Thank you for your time and this and that. Yeah, but it's like, I feel bad because in that moment, I'm like, they're not a bad person. Like a human, I'd be like,
reject them through text though. I have to do it to their face.
I will say that might be, I might be okay socially, but I don't think I ever want to. I feel bad even through text or voice or anything else ever because I'm like, oh, unless it's a jerk, I'm like, no, I feel bad. Which leads into the final part: kicking players.
Yeah.
Now I was talking about a fit. I've kicked people that are not a fit because I am very clear in the beginning. Hey, this is entertainment. We're doing this as a hobby. We want to enjoy ourselves. And we should enjoy our entertainment. We're choosing to do this for several hours every week. You should just enjoy it as much as I do. Whatever that enjoyment is, whatever we're trying to find the satisfaction, right? You should have that just as much as me. It's equal. Oh, yeah. And so I tell them, do not worry or feel like I'm going to be upset if you're like, I need a drop. It's not a fit. I think that's fine because I tell them, I will do the same thing if I don't think the players are working out or are fit for the game. I think you should have that same option of, I'm bouncing. I'm sorry. And I'm like, cool. You figured out that this wasn't a fit for you. You should have fun. Have a great day. I hope your life is great. The flip side, it is much easier to kick strangers out of the game that are just terrible. Terrible 100%. Terrible because they're a bad fit. And even easier if they're just like a terrible person. And I didn't realize during my application process that this weasel of a villain was hiding who they are. And I was like, okay, chill. Or hey, that's like let's let's be grown-ups about this, like, what are you doing type of thing. And so, or I'm like, okay, you're just out. I've never kicked anybody just outright. I do a pretty good job. I have 5 steps of vetting, but I have kicked people that I'm like, you're not a good fit. 3 sessions later, I feel bad if they're a good player, or a good person, I should say. But for you, and these aren't strangers, so when you're looking at them, what is it harder? Do you kind of just let it roll because you're like, you know what? I'm not looking for a fit for the game. I'm just looking for a fit to hang out with. Like, what do you do, and how do you kick people? Have you even kicked somebody ever, or do you just try to avoid the kicking thing?
So if we take away that one experience, right, that I talked about with the LGS, because that was an outlier. That's, again, not something I normally do. I have kicked people out of the table before. Okay, so it's personal, right? Every time, because it's either I know the person, I work with the person, or they're a friend of somebody at the table.
You're going to see them again. You're going to see them again.
or I'm going to see, at the very least, I'm going to see the repercussions of kicking them out, right?
You kicked my friend out?
Exactly. So, all right. So I have done this before. It is tricky, but you have to understand, too, that when you have the added benefit of when you're working with strangers, you don't have their everyday drama and bullshit coming to the table. My players know each other personally, so they're always, oh, something happened at work. I had a bad day. I'm going to bleed it into the game, and everyone knows why, because my girlfriend broke up with me. Oh yeah, we all know who the girlfriend is. Da da da. So the drama is a little different, right? It's more real, and it can be affecting. Now, with that said, there has been a couple of people that I've had to say, hey, look, you need to leave that at the door. We're not here for that. I understand that you're going through some stuff. And if you can't flip that switch, then don't come today. And that's just where we'll leave it. So I have kicked them out per session. I haven't kicked anyone out per campaign, because it's not gotten that bad. But I have gotten to a point where I'm like, hey, look, you're bleeding some stuff in. You got to stop. And usually if it's a friend of a friend that's normally there, I'll get reinforcement, and I'll be like, hey, look, your buddy's being an a-hole. It's kind of ruining this table, do you want to talk to him, or do you want me to? Because if I do it, there's an ultimatum. If you do it, hopefully there's a wake-up call kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. That's a good way to handle it, for anybody out there, that if you can do a friend of a friend, or have other than the GM say chill, or hey, maybe take a breather, the game table's kind of being affected by your personal life right now. I think that's actually much more palatable to people, because it sounds less like the boss, the parent speaking. It's more of like, hey buddy, I know you're going through a lot, but like, you're kind of ruining the thing. Let's talk afterwards, and then, or let's hang out again, because I'm not ditching you, but like, right now isn't the best to hang out with everybody right now. Not every day is a good day to hang out, type of thing. And I think it's way more palatable to get it from, I don't want to say like somebody on equal footing, but I think it will be always taken that way. Which I would feel that kind of rejection too, if the GM just said, Keegan, your drama, your life drama is ruining the table, versus another player going like, damn, it sucks, but I don't think you should hang out. Like, it's kind of bringing things down. I know you're not trying to. I'd personally be more receptive to a player saying, hey, I understand.
Because they're in the same boat.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Then the call out by the GM. So I would like to ask, like, the one final thing is, would you ruin a friendship, or would you rather ruin a game by keeping somebody? So where would you do this?
Wow. So I would like to think that I wouldn't ruin a friendship by asking someone to step out. And I'm going through all the people at my table. I'm like, would that person do it? Would that person do it? No. But I guess I do have a couple of people that would be really, really hurt if they were kicked out. Like, my table is their escapism, right? And it might be the only outlet they have. So yeah, if I remove that from them for whatever reason, it could really damage a friendship. It's a tough call. I would never put a friendship in front of a game, but I would sit down with whoever I need to talk to and just be like, look, I'm not talking to you as a DM anymore. You know, we can be friends. Let's talk this over. But as a DM, you really fucked up my game. No. You know, and I'll be, I usually will play something out like that, you know, and to be a little bit facetious with it, but show them that, hey, look, you know, we care about you, but don't bring everyone down, kind of a thing. So no, the friendship will come over the game. Yeah.
So would you end a campaign if they're like, I don't see it? Like, what's the problem? Say that they're very mild and not getting explosive, but clearly taking offense because they're like, I just disagree that I'm the problem type of thing.
Oh,
you're
right.
you're getting over, like, this is overblown. You're getting too sensitive about it. Like, we're all having fun, but you seem to be bothered by it. But you're the GM, which is a real important person at the table, the most important person at the table. Would you just say, like, I can't do this campaign anymore and end the game? Or would you just say, you're out in so many words, and then you just play with the other friends that he's just not invited anymore to hang out that day?
Kind of. So something like that similar did happen years ago.
Okay.
Years ago I had, I don't know, 4 or 5 players, and about half the table was just being nincompoops, and they weren't getting into it. They weren't playing along. Then it's like they didn't care. You know, we've all had players like that. And then it just escalated. You know, it turned into, well, it started off as they didn't care, and then they started bringing their laptops and playing games while playing the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just turned disruptive, right? And at that point, we weren't playing at my house. We were playing at somebody else's house. And I literally just grabbed my book bag, my book, my DM screen, and said, hey, guys, I'm going to call it here. I'm going to take a little bit of a break from DMing, and then I'll hit you guys up if when I'm ready to DM. So I have actually done that before, and I just got tired of it. You know, at some point you have to draw that line in the sand and say that behavior is unacceptable, and if they don't listen, then you just kind of just got to get up and walk away. I'm still buddies with all of them. But the game stopped, and I went to a new group.
Yeah, I would say that's as difficult as it is. I would say that's the healthiest for online or offline. If hitting a moment of, if it just isn't working, then we're not paid to be tortured, right? This isn't a some ego trip. I can endure anything. Nobody's gonna break me. But if you're offline, I can say a bit much more sensitive. But I've had that before where, I can't play this kind of game, whether it was an RPG or a board game or something, with you, because this ruins our relationship. It's not fun anymore. It's, for some reason, this is too much of a trigger of ruining the experience for people. So I won't play this with you. I could do other things with you, but not this thing. I need to pick and choose who can show up that I want to play, or I need to pick and choose who's going to be part of the activity that I'm trying to enjoy myself in. And online, I've had things where people were part of a group where we'd run campaigns for, like, it'd be several years. I've had several major campaigns where it was like 2-3 years long. And then we even play other games offline, or non RPGs. We would just talk and do other things. We had other social things. And I realized that sometimes I had to pull myself out of it because I realized I would get irritated if we did certain things together. And I was like, I don't want that to spill over into the RPG that we're doing. Yeah. That's very successful. So I will kind of like, I don't know if I can make it, or I'm kind of busy, or how can I do a little softball pull out of like, no, I don't think this will work, or certain invites to certain kinds of games I will do. And I still had to do that online. Because after that much commitment, there's a different level of connection that you have with somebody. It's it goes from stranger to learning about them personally and their personal lives, and it's just another friendship type of thing. So it became more I have to play it. But before that, I will take an axe to any player. I will axe you in those first 10 sessions or less. Oh, man, you were getting axed. Just know if you come to my table. No, I'm just joking.
What does it sound like when you kick somebody? Are you compassionate, or is it just like ripping off a Band-Aid? Dude, you suck. We're leaving. Bye.
If it's a person problem, I'd be like, we're not, or you're not a fit for this game. Have a great life. Type of message, really fast, like type of thing. If it's a damn, this just doesn't work, and I can see this spiraling. You're struggling to do the things I'm trying to do at the table. And just to kind of clarify, when I say that, it's usually when I'm trying to do a very like role play immersive kind of game.
Yeah,
where players like. Right. That's not everybody's jam. I've played with all sorts, and everybody's like having fun and smiling, but I'm like, I am not, because that's not what I was trying to do with this game. This particular game, I need people that want to dedicate themselves to a certain kind of fun. And do they have the skills, or two, do they have the desire? And honestly, desire is more important, because I've played with people that have learned the skills that I want. And if they're not trying and they're just like, I'm just doing my own thing, I'm like, dude, I'm trying to explain that's not this table. And you are just, I don't care how good you are at that point. You're not a fit. I'm sorry. It's just not going to work out. Most of them don't protest or say anything bad. Some just don't give any response. But I would say 50-50, they give a polite reply. 50-50, they say nothing. Because who wants to be rejected? It's painful. Even if
I get that.
Even if it's hey, I'm sorry, it's just not a fit. Like, clearly,
you haven't gotten any FUs.
I've had, I would say, one, because it happened suddenly, and they were also like bordering. I think we're going to lead down to also be a bad person. The way they interacted with the game didn't fit, and then the way they were acting with other players, I was like, well, I'm kicking them. Mid-session, which is super rare. That's super rare.
Yeah.
Because after the vetting, I'm like, I missed something. I take the blame on this one. I missed it. I'm sorry to everybody else type of moment. I don't say it because they don't see it yet, but I'm like, I see this is a disaster. You're the drunk driver passed out at the wheel and you're heading for the bridge. Like, I see it. Nobody else might, but I'm definitely seeing it. So I'm like, hey, chill. No. Okay. Mute. Doesn't work. I'm like, this is what we're trying to do. And then they get upset. I'm like, oof, bye-bye. And then they'll say something to my DMs and I'm like, oh, have a good life. But I think that's only been once in the 12 plus years or something like that. I've been doing online 12, 15 years, something like that.
That's crazy, man.
Yep.
And I just had a thought too, that we were talking about VTTs versus offline. The perfect blend would be VR, right? Or AR? Is there anything out there that's like that? I haven't even looked. This is just like off the cuff. I just thought of it. There has to be something out there, right?
That would be good, but man, I think that might be exhausting to move around. To move around for hours, I like to sit.
Well, not to. Well, you wouldn't have to move around. You can sit.
Oh, well, then you're just talking about a mask on your face.
Yeah.
I guess that would be interesting. That could be interesting. It might be too video game for me.
Higher cost ceiling too.
Yeah, it also might feel too video gamey. I don't know. I've never done it, but I think imagination always trumps.
Always.
And so I always try to limit how much I put in front of them. Even offline, I would want to limit how much I put in front of them. So I think in the end, I don't know if I'd ever be able to do it unless it was Matrix level perfection. You couldn't tell the fantasy is that real. And if it's not, I personally don't want to feel like, okay, we're avatars. I mean, I struggle enough that people play their characters as avatars. I don't want to add to it by making it look like an MMO. So I would say we'll wait and see. But this time we usually give the final the final I forgot what it was.
Final thoughts. To our guest.
It's been a long night. Final thoughts to the guest. And I think you should have that.
What?
The DM with the final thoughts. What your final thought of this online versus offline experience?
I just want to play a game. No.
And with that, as always, I am GM Keegan. Okay, you have one.
No, don't do that.
Okay.
Don't do that. Okay. All right. No. Final thoughts on this. I think it's fair to say that there's no wrong way to play it. If I could give anybody advice to it, is don't covet the other side of the fence. Everything's got its strengths, its weaknesses. One side's more efficient than one thing than the other. It focus on, if you're a player, focus on finding a group that fits you. Focus on finding a group that plays how you want to play, because that is ultimately what we're all here for. And it's for the fun of the game, the love of the game, to be able to express ourselves in a safe place that we can escape and go to and just have fun.
Perfect. Excellent way to end it. Find the entertainment that fits you. I am GM Keegan, and as always, my co-host, DM Knock. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you, community, for listening. Join RollNet's Discord now to continue the discussion with other GMs, DMs, and players about tonight's topic. Come back next time, where there's always a seat waiting for you at a table in a tavern.
I regard you like a book on a shelf, collecting dust, utterly useless.